I have not bought a bottle of cleaner from a store in over 15 years. Every surface in my house, every window, every drain, every load of laundry my family runs through the wash gets cleaned with something I made myself out of ingredients that cost pennies next to what's sitting on a shelf labeled for the exact same job. 8 products almost every household buys without a second thought. Glass cleaner, furniture polish, wipes, spray cleaner, fabric softener, toilet cleaner, laundry detergent, drain cleaner, and one more sitting at the very end of that list because by the time we get there, this stops being about money entirely. Add up what an average household spends on all 8 over a single year and you land at $535. That's real money for products that, in almost every case, do less than a jar of vinegar, a box of baking soda, and a bar of soap already sitting in my cellar. We're counting these down from the smallest gap to the widest one. The order on this list isn't only about dollars. The last item on it isn't the most expensive thing you'll buy all year. It's the one most likely to send someone to an emergency room, and almost nobody reads the label closely enough to understand why. Let's start at the smallest gap and work our way there. Number 8, glass and window cleaner. A spray bottle of glass cleaner runs about $4.25, and a household that actually uses it regularly, doors, mirrors, windows, goes through around 6 bottles a year. That's $25 annually, the smallest gap on this entire list, and an easy place to start. Read the label and you'll find water, alcohol, a surfactant, ammonia in most formulas, and a dye and fragrance added purely so it looks and smells like it's doing something. None of those ingredients are dangerous in normal household use. That's exactly the point of starting here. This isn't the item that will hurt you, but it is the item that shows you the pattern most clearly before the stakes get higher on this list. What's actually cutting through the grime on that glass is the alcohol and the surfactant, breaking the surface tension of water so it doesn't leave streaks behind. And a plain vinegar and water solution does exactly the same job through exactly the same basic structure at a fraction of the cost. Equal parts white vinegar and water in a jar, nothing else needed, wipes a window just as streak-free as anything from a shelf. A gallon of vinegar bought once costs less than 4 bottles of glass cleaner and lasts most households the better part of a year. Newspaper or a plain cotton cloth instead of a paper towel keeps it from streaking. An old trick that works because newsprint doesn't leave lint behind the way most paper towels do. $25 a year isn't going to break anyone's budget, but it's $25 for a bottle of colored water and fragrance when a jar you already have on a shelf does the identical job for pennies, and that gap only grows from here. Number 7, furniture and wood polish. A can of furniture polish runs about $6.50, and a household with any real wood furniture, a table, a dresser, a set of chairs, goes through roughly 5 cans a year to keep it looking cared for. That's $32 annually. A small step up from glass cleaner, but the same basic story underneath it. Most furniture polish is oil, usually a petroleum-based one, plus wax, and a solvent to help it spread thin and dry without leaving the wood tacky. It's not dangerous under normal use, but it's also not doing anything a Homestead hasn't handled for centuries. Worse, a lot of spray polishes build up in layers over time, a hazy film that actually makes wood look duller the more often you clean it, which is exactly backwards from what the can promises. A simple mix of oil and vinegar or oil and fresh lemon juice conditions wood the same way, through the same 2 mechanisms working together. The oil feeds the wood and brings back its natural shine, and the acid in the vinegar or lemon cuts through built-up old wax and grime without stripping the finish underneath it. Wipe it on with a soft cloth. Let it sit a few minutes, then buff it off, and the wood looks the same as anything sprayed from a can, because it's the same combination of oil and acid doing the actual work either way, minus the film that builds up over time. A bottle of plain vegetable or olive oil most kitchens already own, combined with vinegar most kitchens also already have, replaces the entire $32 a year without a single new ingredient bought specifically for cleaning. Number 6. Disinfecting wipes. A canister of disinfecting wipes runs about $4.15, and a household that keeps them by the sink and reaches for them out of habit, counters, doorknobs, the inside of the microwave, goes through about a canister a month. That's roughly $50 a year. And this is where the gap starts adding real weight, because it's not only about cost anymore. Most disinfecting wipes are saturated with a class of chemicals called quaternary ammonium compounds, quats for short, which genuinely do kill a wide range of germs on contact. But they're also a documented skin and respiratory irritant with repeated use, which is exactly why the fine print on most canisters tells you to ventilate the room and rinse anything that touches food afterward. Instructions almost nobody actually follows because the entire appeal of a wipe is not having to think about any of that. A cloth dampened with a plain vinegar and water solution, or diluted rubbing alcohol for anything that genuinely needs real disinfecting, does the same physical job, lifting grime and killing a broad range of germs without leaving a chemical film behind on a counter where food gets prepared 20 minutes later. Vinegar alone won't kill everything a quat wipe will, and I won't pretend otherwise. But for the counters, doorknobs, and everyday surfaces most households are actually reaching for wipes on. It does exactly the job that's actually needed. A jug of vinegar and a stack of cloth rags, washed and reused instead of thrown away sheet by sheet, handles $50 a year of canisters for the cost of what's already sitting in most kitchens. And it doesn't send a single wipe to a landfill the way a canister does with everyone it dispenses. There is more to this than fits in any video, and the part I leave out is the reason under the method. It is all in my book, The Plain Household Manual. 82 methods, the real cause behind each one. If that's something you're interested in, it is at silasfisherhomestead.com, or scan the code on your screen. Link is also in the description. That is the only time you will hear me bring it up. Now back to the work. Number 5, all-purpose spray cleaner. A bottle of all-purpose spray cleaner runs about $6.50, and a household using it across counters, appliances, and bathroom surfaces goes through roughly 10 bottles a year. That's $65 annually, and by now the pattern should be obvious before I even explain the ingredients. Most all-purpose cleaners are water, a surfactant to lift grease and grime, a small amount of solvent, and often the same quats or a similar disinfecting agent found in wipes, all dyed and fragranced to smell like a specific idea of clean rather than the actual absence of dirt, which is what clean really is. A Homestead all-purpose cleaner is Castile soap, a plant-based soap made from oil mixed into water with a few drops of vinegar. Some households, mine included, let citrus peels steep in a jar of vinegar for a few weeks first, which pulls the natural oils out of the peel and gives the finished cleaner real grease-cutting power on top of a genuinely pleasant smell. Out of peels, most kitchens throw straight in the trash anyway. The soap lifts grease and grime the same way any surfactant does. The vinegar cuts through mineral buildup and residue, and between the two, there's very little on a counter or appliance that doesn't come clean. One bottle of Castile soap, which costs about the same as a single bottle of spray cleaner but makes dozens of diluted batches from that one bottle, paired with vinegar already doing double duty for other jobs in this house, handles $65 a year of spray bottles for what amounts to a few dollars spent once and refilled from a tap for months afterward. Number 4, fabric softener. A bottle of fabric softener runs about $8.50, and a household doing laundry weekly goes through roughly 8 to 10 bottles a year. That's $70 annually, and here I'll tell you, this is the item on the list doing the least of what it actually claims. Fabric softener works by coating fibers in a thin layer of chemical compound, usually silicone or a quaternary ammonium compound again, that makes fabric feel smoother against skin and reduces static. It does not clean anything. It's added after the actual washing is already finished, purely for feel and scent, and that coating is exactly why towels washed with fabric softener for years gradually lose their absorbency. The same chemical film that makes them feel soft is also blocking water from soaking into the fibers the way a towel is supposed to work in the first place. A half cup of plain white vinegar added to the rinse cycle softens fabric and eliminates static through a completely different and frankly better mechanism. Vinegar is mildly acidic, and that acidity breaks down the mineral and detergent residue left behind in fabric from the wash cycle itself. There's no chemical coating left behind, no synthetic smell once it dries, and no gradual loss of absorbency in your towels over time. For the dryer itself, a few wool dryer balls tossed in with a wet load do the job of a dryer sheet, separating fabric as it tumbles so air actually reaches it, cutting drying time and static without a single sheet of chemically coated paper thrown away after one use. $70 a year for a product that coats your laundry and the exact residue vinegar is designed to remove is one of the more genuinely backwards items on this entire list. And it's also one of the easiest fixes, since most households already keep vinegar on hand for cooking. Number 3. Toilet bowl cleaner. A bottle of toilet bowl cleaner runs about $4.50, and a household cleaning multiple bathrooms regularly goes through roughly 15 bottles a year between the gel, the tablets, and the spray most people layer on top of each other without realizing they're paying for the same active ingredient 3 separate times. That's around $65 annually. Most toilet bowl cleaners rely on hydrochloric acid or a similarly strong acidic compound to dissolve mineral buildup and staining, which genuinely works, but it's also a real skin and eye irritant in concentrated form, which is why every single bottle carries a warning label most people never actually read before squeezing it under the rim. A half cup of baking soda sprinkled around the bowl, followed by a cup of white vinegar poured over it, produces the same acid reaction, fizzing and lifting mineral stains and buildup using a mild food-safe acid instead of an industrial one. Let it sit 15 minutes, scrub once with a brush, and the bowl comes out looking the same as anything from a bottle carrying a hazard symbol on the label. A few drops of a strong-smelling herb oil, if you keep any on hand, added to the baking soda beforehand leaves the bathroom smelling clean without a synthetic fragrance doing the work. Baking soda and vinegar, 2 ingredients most kitchens keep on hand for cooking anyway, replace $65 a year of gel, tablets, and spray. Number 2, laundry detergent. A bottle of liquid laundry detergent runs about $12.50, and an average household doing several loads a week goes through about 12 bottles a year. That's $150 annually, the second largest number on this entire list, and the point where I'd ask you to actually think about what you're buying instead of just how much of it. Laundry detergent pods specifically deserve their own mention here, because they've become one of the more common calls to poison control centers involving young children in this country, largely because they're small, brightly colored, and squeeze enough like candy that a toddler left alone with one for even a few seconds can bite straight into it. That's a real household hazard sitting in a laundry room within reach of a curious 2-year-old in an enormous number of homes across this country right now. A Homestead laundry soap made from grated bar soap, washing soda, and borax, mixed together dry and stored in a jar, cleans clothes through the same basic surfactant chemistry as anything liquid or packed in a pod, lifting oil and grime so water can rinse it away without a single ingredient that resembles candy to a toddler, without a plastic bottle heading to a landfill every few weeks, and at a cost that runs closer to $20 a year for the same amount of laundry. The bar soap itself in my house comes from the same rendered fat and homemade lye most of what we clean with traces back to, just shaped and cured differently. $150 a year is real money, but the bigger issue with this one was never really the price. It's that an enormous number of households have replaced a plain bar of soap, something a child can pick up and nothing happens, with a product that looks exactly like something a child would want to eat. Number 1, drain cleaner. A bottle of chemical drain cleaner runs about $9, and most households only buy it when a drain is already slow or clogged, maybe 4 or 5 bottles a year across a kitchen sink and a couple of bathrooms. That's somewhere around $45 annually, genuinely the smallest dollar figure on this entire list. And that's exactly why it's last. Most liquid drain cleaners work using either concentrated lye, sodium hydroxide, or a strong acid, and both categories are capable of causing real, severe chemical burns on contact with skin or eyes, and genuine internal injury if a bottle is mishandled, splashed, or swallowed. Poison Control Center's field calls involving drain cleaner every single year, and a meaningful share of them involve serious injury, not a minor scare, precisely because the entire selling point of these products is a caustic strength strong enough to dissolve hair and grease sitting inside a pipe. That strength doesn't know the difference between a clog and a hand reaching toward it. Here's the part that should actually bother you. Baking soda followed by boiling water, poured slowly and carefully down a slow drain, clears the overwhelming majority of ordinary household clogs through a combination of heat and a mild chemical reaction, without a single caustic ingredient anywhere in the house. For anything that baking soda and boiling water can't clear, a simple hand snake or a plunger finishes the job through pure mechanical force, no chemistry involved at all. And the best fix of all costs, nothing. A cheap mesh drain trap catching hair and food scraps before they ever build up in the first place, so the clog never really happens. This is where the old way runs deeper than a cleaning tip. My community makes its own lye from wood ash and rainwater, the same caustic ingredient sitting inside that $9 bottle, and we use it deliberately, carefully, in small controlled batches. A store hands that same strength to anyone in a plastic bottle with a cap that isn't actually child-proof to an adult in a hurry. No real instruction beyond a warning label most people skim past on the way to pouring it down a sink. $45 a year is the cheapest number on this entire list, and it's also the one product here I genuinely tell you to think twice about keeping under your sink at all. Add these 8 products together and you land at $535 a year, built from 8 real specific figures. The item that costs the least of anything on this list is the one most likely to put someone in an emergency room, and it's sitting under sinks in houses all over this country right now. Next to cleaning supplies, nobody thinks twice about reaching past to grab it. I'm not telling you every household needs to start making its own lye and rendering its own soap by next week. That's a skill that takes real time to learn properly, and it deserves to be learned properly, not rushed into on a Saturday afternoon because a video told you to. What I am telling you is that almost everything else on this list, the vinegar, the baking soda, the Castile soap, the plain oil and lemon juice, is sitting in most kitchens in this country right now, unused for the jobs it's actually capable of doing, while a shelf full of colored, fragranced, and in one specific case, genuinely dangerous alternatives sits in the cart at checkout instead. Before you grab a store-bought cleaner, ask yourself if you could make this with vinegar, lye, and water. More often than most people realize, the honest answer is yes.